What do you think, Nicolas, about the damage being done to the French economy? Is it significant yet?
No, I don't think the damage from those demonstrations is significant at this point. I should say that I was advisor to the minister 20 years ago, so this is not very recent, but I keep an eye on this. I think what's happening is that Macron and the French government are going for a big reform, very structural. It's really about making the system make sense, and it's been built over decades. At this point, it's incredibly complicated. It no longer makes sense for people. So he's taking this gamble that the streamlining and clarification of the pension system will ultimately be something that the French electorate and public opinion will be grateful for. At this point, it looks like an incredibly audacious gamble because you have all these demonstrations and strikes and colorful images on the screen, but it may still pay off. So I think we're at an early stage of this issue.
So when, Nicolas, great to see you, by the way, is this gamble likely to pay off for Macron in terms of the impact on the economy?
In terms of the economy, Macron has been doing structural reform according to what he committed to during his campaign since the beginning of his term. So this is part of a sequence, and he's long-term greedy, as they used to say. So he expects and wants to be re-elected in 2022. He expects the payoff to come gradually over the next years, but not in the next 12 months. Now, of course, the next big election deadline is 2022. That gives him almost more than 2 years. It's not a lot, but that's enough time to recover from his current relatively unpopular position.
So 20 years ago, you were advising the government. You've got a lot of experience in these things. Do the French unions have a history of being able to really make changes, affect change in politics? I mean, for example, could Macron face career-ending protests here, because he doesn't seem to have been hit that hard, or at least he handled deftly the yellow vest protests?
You used the right word. He's very deft at these things. The French unions have a culture of hard bargaining. They also have to be sure to make sure they are not overwhelmed by the aspirations of their base and by the anger at the grassroots. So it's a difficult game to play for the unions. A bargain is a better solution for them, but if the bargain is something that will make the base angry, they cannot go for it. So that's a balance. Macron is very strategic. He will negotiate also in a spirit of hard bargaining. Again, at this point, too early to say, but you're right. I mean, he went through a very difficult sequence of opposition with the yellow vest. He has handled it very deftly.
One other area where you have been very influential, Nicolas, is in terms of your advocacy of European banking union. I mean, we've got an ECB meeting happening today, and so it gives us an opportunity to talk about some of the broader issues facing Europe. Is the prospect of a banking union, while you might advocate for it, something that you realistically see happening at any time in the near future or medium term?
So banking union has started in Europe in 2012. There has been the establishment of a single supervisory mechanism for all Eurozone banks. There are some elements of common crisis management, but it's still a halfway house. And the aim of banking union, which is to break the vicious circle between banks and sovereigns, which almost broke the Eurozone in 2011-2012, this has not been achieved yet. There has been a moment of paralysis. I think we're no longer there. We're seeing a number of red lines eroding, becoming maybe yellowish in a number of member states. The Germans used to say, no way we can discuss deposit insurance at the European level anytime soon. Now they say we're ready to discuss with a hard position. The Italians said, no way we're going to discuss a regulatory treatment for sovereign exposures, moving away from their current exemption from capital regulations. Now they say we are ready to discuss them if it's together with things like a safe asset. So this is another hard bargaining proposition. It's not going to be an easy proposition, negotiations. There are a lot of special interest, entrenched habits, difficult things politically. But I think in the next 12 to 18 months, not in the next 2 weeks, but in the next 12 to 18 months, there is a deal to be made that could be good for everybody. So I'm not predicting this will happen, but I think it's within the scope of possibility.